This Sony a7 III has been my primary camera for the past two and a half years. I bought it back when it was very first released in April 2018, and I have loved every minute of owning it. This is not the only Sony full frame camera I've owned. I've owned an A7, an A7 II, this A7 III, an A7R2, an A9, and they all had their pros and cons. Today, I want to talk about 5 things I love about Sony full frame cameras. Let's get into it. Number 1, without a doubt, my absolute favorite thing about Sony full frame cameras is the image quality you get out of them. And this goes back all the way to the very first one, the A7. Even now, the older cameras can still hold their own pretty well. An A7R2 is pretty outdated now by technology standards, but the image quality that it can produce is still really good, and I would still be fine using it today. Here are just a few sample images that I've taken with my Sony a7 III. I'm very happy with the image quality, and I think they all look really good. The number 2 thing I love about Sony full frame cameras is their low light capabilities. Everyone knows about the legendary A7S line, the A7S, the A7S II, and recently the A7S III. They are absolute monsters at low light. The great low light capabilities aren't limited to just the A7S line. Even Sony's A7 line and the A9 series are really good in low light. Besides just nighttime photography, this is really beneficial when you're taking shots in a shadowy environment, because with the sensor, you can capture really good detail in the shadows, and then when you're post-processing, you can boost up the shadows and still retain the detail without bringing in a lot of noise. The number 3 thing I love about Sony full frame cameras is autofocus, specifically eye autofocus. Other manufacturers are starting to catch on and starting to implement their own, and I'm really glad they are, but Sony was the very first, and they did it really well to begin with, and they've only improved since then. Being able to track an eye makes photography and videography so much easier. Instead of worrying about whether or not you're in focus, you can focus more on the composition and what elements are in frame and what elements are out of frame. So it's really nice being able to reliably count on the autofocus of the camera. The number 4 thing I love about Sony full frame cameras are Tamron lenses. This isn't a Sony lens, it's a Tamron lens, but this 17-28, the 28-75, and the 70-180 are exclusive to Sony E-mount right now. These 3 lenses are so good that I think there's a compelling argument that you should buy a Sony full frame camera just so that you can use these lenses. With the Tamron Trinity, you can go all the way from 17mm to 180mm at a constant f2.8 aperture. Besides having great image quality, the Tamron lenses are actually pretty affordable. I got this lens for about $700, $750, and I got my 28-75 for a little less than that. There are great zoom lenses, f2.8 zoom lenses for other camera systems, but I don't think any of them have the performance to price ratio that these Tamron lenses do. And last, number 5, the thing I love about Sony full frame cameras are their customizability. There's a C3, AF on button that's customizable. Trash button is a C4 as well. There's a C1 and a C2 up here. Depending on whether you have the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th generation cameras, the custom buttons are slightly different or in slightly different places, but all of them have quite a few customizable buttons and quite a few different features that you can customize each button to do. Starting with the a7 III, Sony's 3rd generation cameras and now their 4th generation cameras, you can actually set different custom functions for photo and video modes, which is so nice. And I know that Sony's menu system gets ragged on a lot. Admittedly, it is pretty bad, but they have a My Menu page on the 3rd and 4th generation cameras that allow you to choose certain settings and put them on that page. So whenever I buy a new camera, the first thing I do is I configure that My Settings page, because I know those are the settings that I'm going to actually use a lot. And so it's really nice that I can have quick access there and not have to go searching through the menu system again. It really helps mitigate the fact that Sony's menu system is so big and so hard to find things. So there you have it. Those are the top 5 things I love about my Sony full frame camera and Sony full frame cameras in general. Do you think I got the best 5, or do you think there's something else that should be in the 5? If so, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think is really good about Sony full frame cameras. I also did a video on 5 things I hate about Sony full frame cameras. If you haven't seen that yet, check it out.